Okay, guys, welcome back to Brown's Film Breakdown. This is now going to be episode 23, joined by my trusty PFF analyst here, Brendan Leister. Brendan, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. How about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. We're grinding through the week, already to Wednesday. Looking forward to Sunday. We get Hugh Jackson's rerun, but I know you guys have asked Brendan and myself here within Brown's Film Breakdown, what happened to Baker Mayfield? Why was he off? And we're going to dive into four plays, I think, paint a clear picture for some of his struggles because it really wasn't a great game for Mayfield. So we want to dive into our opinion. It's a little subjective on some things, but just look at, where when he missed throws, was it an awareness thing? Was it he just point blank missed it? Was it a throw feel? That sort of thing. So we'll jump in here. This is the Browns' second series of the game. They had scored on their first series to Perriman on that ball to the corner of the end zone on a similar concept here, right? They're going to run form of smash, right, Brendan? So they're going to put a bind right here.
Yeah, on the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a high-low on the corner typically.
Yes, sir. So, that's where Mayfield's eyes are going to go right away. And I think it's a pretty clear read off the snap. You get a pretty quick commitment right here. So let's take a look at, what he's thinking and why he throws it where he throws it. So let me clear these off. Okay, so let's run the tape and see his decision, where he's throwing, why he's throwing there. So talk me through it, Brendan.
Yeah, so Callaway is going to press the toes of that safety, the defensive back over him, and he's going to run the corner route, break to the sideline. So typically in this situation, the wide receiver would run the route. He would run it high, and then the quarterback's responsibility would be to throw him flat away from that defender. And since it's man-to-man, that's what it turns into. Whether they call it a match zone or whatever they call it, it turns into man-to-man. So typically the quarterback would throw him flat toward the sideline. It would turn into almost like an out route. Mm-hmm. But instead on this, Mayfield leads him up the field almost like a fade ball or just like a deeper corner route that you would throw when the DB plays him differently than this. So this situation kind of called for the flat throw to the sideline.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I tried to illustrate it best for you guys here. This is where it should be. This would be your sideline out route. He sort of leads him upfield, and it messes with Callaway's shoulder. So you guys will see it here as we play. The end zone view is going to give us our best chance. So let's take. Sometimes the whole field view can be tough to see. So we'll run it through. Right at this point.
Protection.
Yep, absolutely. His ball needs to be over in this area, bending him toward the sideline like Brendan said, but it goes upfield, sails over his head, right? Just a minor adjustment, but it's all the difference in a 25, 30-yard gain and an incomplete pass, right?
Yep, no doubt.
Yes, sir. So let's jump to play two. This is something that Brendan and I were talking about before we jumped on. The Browns are going to run a pivot route by number 3 inside here. Or sorry, it looks like Callaway's the number 1 guy in the bunch trips here. He's going to swim inside, pivot. You're getting an out route by Jarvis Landry at number 3. I think you're getting is it just a vertical? Yep.
Yeah, it just turns into flood concept.
Yep. So, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to tell us where this ball needs to go right now, right?
Yep.
At this juncture right here.
He really doesn't even need to leave the pocket. He can honestly just get to his back foot and throw this ball. It's clearly a busted coverage. Like, they didn't communicate well. And Actually, can we go back to pre-snap even?
Of course.
Because it might have let's see how it looks right at the snap. Okay. Yeah, so those guys all clear out with the clear out routes. So with the intermediate, with the out route, and the takeoff by Perriman, and then it leaves Callaway wide open. Yeah, so he should see that and get that ball out now. At the top of his drop, get the ball out to him. Just take what the defense gives you. Landry ends up open, but it's still, he's forcing the ball downfield when he doesn't need to into a tighter spot. That was something he did a good amount of at Oklahoma. He would pass up easier throws to test tighter windows down the field. And I thought before the Hugh Jackson, Todd Haley firing, I thought that Mayfield was showing some of those issues early in the season. Especially the Atlanta game comes to mind as one where he was doing a great job of taking what the defense gave him and hitting those checkdowns quickly. This is just a situation where he needs to take what the defense gives him and not force the ball down the field.
I agree. It does. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Chris Hubbard does get blown by Von Miller, but it shouldn't matter. Like Brendan said, at this point, when you can, in your quarterback's vision, he's obviously, his vision cone is right here. He can see this issue for his right tackle right in front of his face. And at that point, the ball should just be off of his back foot here. It needs to be delivered right here. That ball should be thrown right now. There's no defender around him. Instead, like Brendan said, he escapes a pocket that he doesn't necessarily need to escape, right? And at that point, it turns into a tough throw on the run. Now, he can make this, though, there's no doubt, but this is what we're talking about, and taking what the defense is giving you. If playing quarterback in the NFL is hard enough as it is, you don't need to make it any harder by just pushing to your right and it turns into a 25-yard out route throw on the run, and it's just unnecessary. Even at this point, this is what gets me. Even at this point, he's pushing out of the pocket and he's escaped Von Miller essentially. Just still dump it off. Like, it doesn't need to be any more harder than you're making it. So I would imagine Mayfield got in the film room this week and said, what the heck am I doing? Took steps back. And we have one more to illustrate that, our fourth play, some of the issues with seeing what's given to him right away. But this is one I find particularly interesting, the interception right before half. So, as Brendan and I watch games, we often text back and forth, and we'll give our insight on, here's a crazy revelation for you guys. We don't see everything the same. It's anybody who's in a coach or cares about the game and understands things, they're going to have their own opinion on it. So we had some really good banter on this concept. So the Browns really just, I think, and we'll watch the snap, but I'm pretty sure it's just inside release verticals by both outside guys. I think they try to kind of bend back at the end of the route, and then Landry is sort of left to work the middle of the field into what we called a bender against inside zone coverage. So, in this situation, what is there? I didn't see the clock. We can rewind it, but I think
26 seconds left.
Yeah, just under 30 seconds. You are in field goal range for your kicker. So at this point, you're taking calculated risks. You need to be pretty smart. So I certainly understand, and I tweeted this out at the time, that I thought it was the right decision, just a poor throw. I obviously understand you're taking a calculated risk here if you're throwing this ball. He decides, obviously, that he just feels the safety sitting over top of both of these routes, have him covered. So I don't blame him for not throwing this ball. Maybe he can, and Brendan, you tell me, man, maybe he can lead him to the pylon and sort of wave him away from coverage. But even that comes with the risk. If you're coaching him or you're thinking through this or breaking it down, what do you think, man?
I think the outside, it's tough. Initially, I was hoping that he could throw like back shoulder outside, but with the corners playing that trail technique, and looks like, can we see like pre-snap where they've lined up outside? Did they kind of yeah, so he's playing outside leverage. So that's why they take the inside release, because it's just the easiest way to get downfield. But that kills any way of throwing like back shoulder or anything, which would be ideal against a two-man. That's what they're playing here, because it's a passing situation. So it's deep safeties, basically just robbing pretty much just their free players, reading quarterback's eyes, and then everybody underneath is just playing trail technique man-to-man, as you can see. So really fitting these balls as the number one receivers would be really tough, because you've got a safety over the top of both of them. And, he decides to test it with Landry against the nickel up the seam, and it's a tight window. It's tough. My perspective was, I think it's tough to come out of that without a field goal, and it would have been nice for him to see downfield, okay, everything's covered. They're playing two-man. All these windows are going to be really tight. Why don't I just find Njoku in the flat over here? Or why don't I just work Duke Johnson against this linebacker? Or even just escape from the pocket, try to get something with your legs, because that's the best way to beat two-man most of the time, actually, is the quarterback's legs. And Mayfield's not a slow guy. So he had options to kind of manage the game a little better here. And I think Landry is not a burner. He doesn't do a great job of beating man coverage vertically, especially down the field.
Yeah.
And I think, you have to keep in mind your personnel and the matchups, and also the fact that the reason this throw is off is because it is such tight coverage, because Landry can't be this guy. If he's got him burnt, then it's a wide open throw. The throw is a lot easier to make, but it's tight coverage. He has no separation, and that safety can just, make the play. Makes the throw really tough.
And I had originally thought, and I think you and I might have had some discourse on that, I thought this ball was better thrown toward the middle of the field, up in between the hashes. But when you're looking at it from Mayfield's perspective, he can't think that ball will be completed. So I actually understand him throwing it sort of in. If this ball were flatter, it's sailed. It misses by a mile. As we've talked about, his propensity is to miss high when he misses, which is dangerous, something that he has to get better at. He genuinely misses this ball terribly. His thought process to me was, I am going to put this ball sort of on the back shoulder and let Landry flip the hip and make a play on it. It is, and I think I had said something to you, it does remind me of the Jets throw up the hash a little bit, retruss him. And that's okay, but I think he has to learn from it and he has to hone it. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges for him are going to be taking his foot off the gas and just reeling in, is this a smart decision at the time I'm making it? I personally, with how his frame of mind is, I understand where he's coming from. I understand his thought process. I understand his aggressive nature. But if Mayfield is over time going to take the next step as a quarterback, two things, and I think you probably will agree with me, Brendan, taking what the defense gives you on a pretty consistent basis and understanding situational football a little bit more. I think that's going to come in time. For him, is this isn't Oklahoma where you can win, you can put 50 on the board every game. These 17, 16 games, the difference in this game damn well could have been getting 3 points on this drive. That's the difference in the NFL. So
that's what I was very concerned about at the end of this half, and that was just a situation where I would have liked for him to not take that chance down the field because I don't think it was necessary, and I just felt he could have managed the situation better because that is such a tight, tough throw. I mean, if he would have made that throw, and I agree that if he throws him kind of back shoulder away from that nickel and makes him flip his hips backwards and adjust to this ball, it's possible. I mean, that is definitely a chance. There's no way he could do that with the outside guys, but back shoulder to Landry, I guess, is possible. That's still such a tough throw, and it takes a ton of chemistry to make that play. That's the thing with back shoulder throws. They're faith throws, and it takes a lot of chemistry and working with someone to complete those types of throws consistently.
I'm with you. And if he gets a guy that can burn up the middle of the field over time, this ball, if he's beating his man here, becomes an easier throw in the middle of the hashes. So, again, I'm with Brendan now more than I was at the beginning. I think it's as calculated as you can be. You have to understand that is the margin for error on this throw, and it even if this is a good throw, it has a margin for error of being back shoulder tipped off of Landry's hands and intercepted. Is the risk of that whole thing worth it in that situation? And I'm just not entirely sold that it is. But I understand where Mayfield's coming from. I think his thought process in throwing the back shoulder is smart given the coverage, given the leverage of the defender, and he was really out in front of Landry almost covering him. So I get that. But yeah, it's yin and yang in football, man. As a quarterback, you got to make these decisions, and you would hate for 3 points to cost your team. So that's a fun breakdown. I think he'll learn a lot from that play, and I think hopefully he becomes better in those situations, and we don't see that same mistake. So last play here, we were talking about missing some easy options that the defense presents to you. So, I think we have let me go through this one real quick, Brendan. I'm sorry, I forget totally route concept-wise. We have a shallow by number 1 to the bottom here into the boundary. Looks like Njoku, is he on a dig? I can't tell what he's running. He's kind of bouncing off people.
Yeah, let's just give him a second to get into it.
Can't entirely tell.
It might be
it's a pick play. It works out to pick. It should have been, right?
Yeah, it might honestly just be all go Z shallow. That's what we'd call it on our playbook.
Yep, it does look like it could be an all go. I'm with you. So, I mean, here's what I see, and you tell me if I'm wrong. It's the same thought process you have in quarterback 101. When they're blitzing people, do you have something that can replace that blitz route concept wise? Let's get to the end zone view here real quick, and we'll talk through
Well,
it
I mean, the big thing is it's cover one. So
for sure.
the whole deal is the route concept. Njoku does a fantastic job of picking Roby, and the safety's not in position to take Landry. So it ends up two guys on Njoku, and Landry's wide open over the middle of the field with nobody on him.
Yep. And really, the Browns should have picked this up more clean than they did. They ended up getting Treader and Duke on the same guy.
What did they? Yeah, they did
Twisted
a cross
it.
dog. Yeah.
Yep. And that's okay. I mean, even right here, if this guy's in your face kind of falling down, you still should have a feel for this. This is 3rd and 3. I didn't know if you guys saw that. But, you want to have – and at this point, my thought process is, do I have a route that's coming to replace that blitz? And if they bring both of these guys, I think he needed to know this. I think this would be graded as a negative if a quarterback coach and a quarterback are watching tape, because he needs to know that answer. And not only that, it is a pretty poor throw. I mean, there's no chance at Higgins. He'd have to have an elevator to go get this football. So, we just need to see him make those plays. We need to see him make those easy throws. A couple of these clips, guys, were easy throws that I thought he should have made. The interception balls calculation is the risk worth the reward right here. And then the first ball is understanding coverage leverage, and is my throw the right throw given coverage of this concept. He needs to be able to lead him to the corner. He wanted, like Brendan said last week, right? We took a look at Callaway. He wanted Callaway to break his corner route off sharp, and he didn't do that. So it should have been in a week's worth of practice. They could have solved that. So. Yeah, man, thoughts going into the Cincinnati game, what you want to see him clean up?
Oh, definitely just taking what the defense gives him, just being sharper on the types of throws to make. Like, for example, in that corner route, instead of throwing him high when he should throw him flat, just making those decisions. But the biggest thing is just managing the game, taking care of the football, and being cautiously aggressive, I would say, is a good way to put it. Not being over aggressive and not constantly forcing the ball down the field like he has it sometimes this year, but taking the shots when they're there, but then also just taking what the defense gives them when the check down's open, letting the guys work after the catch. Because I think his ball placement over the past several weeks, aside from this game, has been pretty fantastic. So hopefully he can get back to that at home against a defense that I think most people would probably agree is not nearly as good as the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you need to see that cautious aggression and calculated risk stuff come back the way it was the last few weeks. The good part about the Broncos game is he made, at the end of the day, he made 3 plays to win the game, right? He made the ball to Perriman, he made the escape throw to Higgins up the sideline, and he made the check slant in the end zone. So this is I think you would agree with me, Brendan, one of his worst games of the year. But you find a way to win, man. You got to win the ugly ones, and he just made enough plays to win the game. So some positive can come out of the negative. I do expect a much sharper version of Mayfield this week against Cincinnati. So that's a wrap for this one, guys. Hopefully we come back next week with another 4 touchdown video breakdown, and we'll have a lot of fun with that one. So Brendan, thanks for joining me, bud.
Yeah, thank you, man. I always have a great time.
All right, guys, we will catch you later, and go Browns.